Hey, MCARBO brother, I'm Chris Nelson, president of MCARBO. Really excited to introduce a new Ruger American Rifle trigger spring kit for your Ruger American. A fantastic firearm from the factory, but we've taken it just to the next level. Unleash that factory performance with this new trigger spring kit, giving you that nice, smooth, crisp, clean trigger pull. It's roughly a 3-pound trigger from the factory, bringing it down to a nice, clean, smooth 2-pound trigger, right in that sweet spot, right where we all want to be. Let's jump on over to tabletop, put this baby in. Parts and tools needed for this build: Ruger American Rifle trigger spring kit by MCARBO, 3/16" Allen key, 3/32" Allen key, 3/32" punch, flathead screwdriver, blue 242 Loctite, and as always guys, make sure you're wearing iPro. Before we get started, let's go ahead and clear our firearms together. Remove the magazine, check the chamber, check the bolt face, check the magazine well. This firearm's clear. Let's see what kind of factory trigger pull we're starting with. 2 pounds, 10.7 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 2 pounds, 9.9 ounces. Let's get started by removing the bolt. Open the bolt all the way, hit the bolt release, and the bolt will come right out. Now position your firearm like so. Go ahead and take your 3/16" Allen key, and we're gonna remove those takedown screws. These takedown screws are exactly the same, so no need to worry about getting them mixed up. Go ahead and loosen them up. Pull out the rear takedown screw, front takedown screw, set those aside. Go ahead and separate the stock from the barrel and receiver group. Now let's go ahead and focus on the trigger assembly. Now before we go into the trigger assembly, I want to point out that this set screw right here will allow you to dial in your trigger pull just by a hair. You can tighten it up a little bit or loosen it up a little bit. We recommend not going any more than 1 thread exposed. You still want this set screw to have a good bite inside that trigger assembly there. So make sure you've got 1 thread exposed when we're done. All we're gonna do is tap out this trigger hinge pin here. Real simple, fast, easy installation. Let's go ahead and start by removing the E-clip. So take your flathead screwdriver and remove the E-clip. Be careful, they'll fly away on you. Set that aside. Go ahead and turn it upright. Now you'll take your punch and you'll push out that trigger hinge pin. Okay, there's the hinge pin right there. We'll set that aside. Now remove our punch and we'll slowly pull out on the trigger. So you've got the trigger release right here and the trigger release spring. Be sure that's intact. Don't need to remove that. We'll just set it aside like so. Now what we've got inside here is our trigger return spring that we're replacing. So there's the factory trigger return spring there. Now typically you should be able to remove this set screw here and pull out that screw, but that's not the case. Fortunately though, the MCARBO trigger return spring is designed so that we'll be able to slide it right in that hole. So we take our 3/32" Allen key here to remove that set screw. You can see it's only got 5 threads on it, so we just want to leave 1 thread exposed. We don't want to back it out too much. We'll set that aside for now. Let's go ahead and pull out our stock trigger return spring. So you can see it right there, okay? Let's go ahead and compare it to the MCARBO trigger return spring. So we'll set that down. All right, let's go ahead and open up our Ruger American Rifle trigger return spring from MCARBO. Much lighter spring, really going to allow us to get that factory performance to the level that we want it. Minor little adjustment that we're going to make to it, make a massive difference. All right, we've got the MCARBO trigger return spring right here in the right, and let's do a quick side by side. So we've got the stock spring here on the left, the MCARBO spring here on the right, and we'll see how springy they are. Yeah, that little MCARBO spring's jumping there. So you can see massive difference all together. And what I really like about the MCARBO spring is we're going to be able to slide it right into the front of that trigger assembly. So it really makes the installation a lot easier. So we'll go ahead and set the factory spring aside. We're going to take our factory trigger with the trigger release and spring intact. We'll go ahead and we'll drop it right in now. So we're going to drop that trigger right in. Line up those holes, then take your trigger hinge pin and insert that from the bottom as you're looking down to make sure you got the holes lined up. Okay, now that we got the trigger hinge pin installed, we'll go ahead and get our E-clip lined up. Push down on that hinge pin a little bit so that we can just slide that E-clip right on. We'll take our flathead screwdriver and press it right on, just like that. All right, Nice. Now we're gonna go ahead and drop our MCARBO trigger return spring into this hole in the front here. This is our adjustment for the trigger. Now we can tighten up that spring tension, loosen up that spring tension a little bit, but we recommend just having one thread exposed. Like we showed you earlier, that set screw's only got a small amount of threads on it, so one thread exposed is ideal. Now it would be a total pain if we had to set that spring up on the trigger and then drop it all in at once. So that's one thing I really like about the MCARBO trigger return spring. It's designed so that we could easily drop it in. So we designed it from that user standpoint where we want to make this a quick, simple, easy installation. So we're going to go ahead and take our MCARBO trigger return spring. We're going to drop it right in, okay? So we'll push it in, all right? All we want it to do is to get all the way in there. That set screw is going to compress it, but we just want to get at least a couple threads exposed. It'll drop in, but it's also going to kind of get snagged on some of those threads as it goes in. All right, so that's good right there. We just want a couple threads exposed. So now we'll go ahead and take our set screw, put a little dab of blue 242 Loctite on there. All right, and we're using our 3/32 inch Allen key to tighten up this set screw here. So go ahead and start threading it in, tighten it up. Be careful when you thread it in. You don't want to cross thread it. All right, you might have a little excess blue 242, no problem, just wipe it away. All right, so we've got about 1.5 threads exposed. All right, 1 thread exposed right there, so we're good. That's perfect. Right where we want to be. All right, let's go ahead and put the rifle back together. Now let's go ahead and drop our stock back on top of the barrel and receiver group. Line it up, then take your set screws. Remember, they are universal, so it doesn't matter which hole they go into, but it would be ideal to keep them in the same hole. You don't want to cross thread these, so go ahead and get them snugged up. All right, nice and snug, not over tight. Okay, now let's go ahead and put the bolt back in. Now take your bolt with that serial number on the side there, nice long channel that mates up with that bolt release. Go ahead and line those up. You'll hear the click. Ride it forward, lock it in place. Let's go ahead and do a function check now. Place the weapon on safe, pull the trigger, nothing. Place it on fire. Oh, all right, now let's go ahead and measure this trigger pull. Let's see what kind of modified trigger pull we got. 1 pound, 8.2 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 1 pound, 8 ounces even. Well, there you have it, guys. A fantastic improvement for your Ruger American rifle. Right from 3 pounds down to 2 pounds, right in that sweet spot for that nice, ooh, crisp, clean trigger pull. That's what I'm talking about. Right there, man. That is where we want it. You know, the factory performance trigger was pretty good, but we've taken it to that next level, just dialed it in a little bit better. I know we always strive to have a little bit better trigger pull, and this one's it, man. This is a fantastic upgrade. No need to spend a ton of money. I mean, you don't want to go any lower than this. This is right on the money. Really happy about this one. Thank you, MCARBO brother, for your ideas and your support. And as always, happy shooting.